Captain Marcus Reeves gazed out the viewport of the terraforming vessel Gaia's Promise as it entered orbit around the desolate planet below. Sienna-hued deserts stretched across most of the surface, broken up only by towering mountain ranges and deep, jagged canyons. No signs of life, not even microbial. Yet another barren rock in need of humanity's terraforming touch. Beginning preliminary scans announced the voice of Jacob Mercer, the ship's chief science officer. His fingers danced across the holographic control interface, directing an array of sensors to penetrate the atmosphere and map every detail of the planet's surface and interior. Composition is what we expected, Jacob reported. Silicate crust, nickel-iron core, trace amounts of frozen water at the poles, very thin carbon dioxide atmosphere. Essentially a larger version of Mars in its pre-terraformed state. Marcus nodded. The Centauri Accord has slated this system for a class I terraforming, creating an environment specifically tailored to the physiology of the Arcturans. The ship's veteran engineer, a gruff man named Booker Briggs, leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. A gravity of 2.4 gs, atmospheric pressure of 8 bars, trace methane. The bony bug-eyed bastards don't make it easy, do they? Marcus shot Booker a warning look. The purpose of the Accord is to transform suitable uninhabited planets to specifications that can support each of the member species. The Arcturans have already terraformed 2 worlds for human settlement. This is simply returning the favor. I know, Booker grumbled. Just seems like a waste of a perfectly good planet is all. When we're done, no one but Arcturans will be able to set foot on it without being crushed like a tin can. Regardless of your opinions on the galactic political situation, Mr. Briggs, we have a schedule to keep, Marcus said firmly. I want descent and deployment of the atmospheric processors within the hour. Aye, Captain Booker said, spinning his chair around to face his engineering console. Firing up the robo-dozers now. If you need me, I'll be in the garage putting the final tune-ups on the spider drills. As Booker marched off towards the ship's cavernous vehicle bay, whistling a jaunty tune, Jacob turned to Marcus with a thoughtful expression. He does have a point, though, the science officer remarked. We're putting an enormous amount of time and resources into reshaping these worlds for aliens. Meanwhile, there are still millions of humans living in overcrowded conditions on Earth, and the colonies, many of whom would jump at the chance for a plot of land on a fresh new world. Marcus sighed. This was an argument he'd had many times before, with many different crewmates on many different ships. It was a debate that raged across human space. Should they be focusing their terraforming efforts inward, expanding humanity's own Lebensraum, or outward, transforming worlds for their alien allies in the interest of diplomacy and trade? The Accord is about more than just territory, Marcus said, though he sometimes struggled to convince himself. It's about cooperation. Unity. Proving that we're ready to be part of a galactic community. If we turn our backs on it now, we risk another devastating war with the Arcturans or any of the other species out there. As a unified federation, we're strong, divided. He left the thought unfinished. Jacob looked unconvinced, but nodded respectfully to his commander. Well, I suppose we'd better get to it then. Atmospherics are online and ready for dispersal. Marcus pushed thoughts of politics aside and focused on the task at hand. Deploy the processors and initiate atmospheric infusion. Particulate density 1,200 parts per million, as specified, will aerosolize the polar water deposits to accelerate the greenhouse effect. For the next several hours, Marcus and his crew carried out the complex dance of terraformation. Towering atmospheric processors were lowered from the ship's hold on screaming thrusters, touching down in a perfectly spaced grid pattern across the planet's surface. Robo-dozer units, little more than engines strapped to industrial equipment, rolled out to begin carving the landscape, cutting channels to direct the future flow of water, grinding up rock to create mineral-rich soil beds. Spider drills burrowed deep into the crust, some to tap geothermal energy for power, others to release sequestered gas pockets that would help build the atmosphere. Orbital mirrors unfurled, diverting immense amounts of solar radiation onto the polar caps, transforming them into a thick blanket of steam. Slowly but surely, a new world took shape under their hands. The dusty tan deserts turned to rich loam in shades of crimson and purple. The skies changed from pale brown to a deep bruise like violet as the thicker atmosphere took hold, perfused with swirling clouds of indigo vapor. The planet's natural geology was drastically reshaped, mountain ranges bulldozed and strip-mined for raw materials, artificial canyons carved to form wind tunnels that would drive continent-spanning storm systems. Genetically engineered lichen and fungal mats, tailored to thrive in the alien environment, were seeded across the surface to begin the long, slow process of churning bioavailable nutrients into the soil. Preliminary ecopoiesis is complete, Jacob announced. Atmospheric infusion holding steady at desired levels. Planet is now officially Class 3 habitable, pending introduction of more complex Arcturan flora and fauna. Marcus allowed himself a small smile of satisfaction. It never ceased to amaze him how they could utterly transform an entire world in mere days, a feat that would have taken nature eons. He only wished he could feel the same sense of pride in the reason behind it. The captain thumbed the comm link on his wrist. Reeves to Gaia's promise. Inform the Arcturan seed ship that Stage 1 is complete. They're clear to begin transport of their biota. A crackly, insectoid voice responded, an Arcturan translator speaking passable English. Gaia's promise, this is Seed Ship Krell, Aka. We are most appreciative of your speed and efficiency. Truly, this cooperation between our peoples is of great benefit to both. We will begin downloading of our transplanted species momentarily. Happy to be of assistance, Marcus replied diplomatically. We'll remain on station to observe and provide support as needed. Reeves out. True to their word, bulbous Arcturan landing craft soon began descending through the roiling purple clouds, each one bearing the components of a carefully crafted ecosystem from soil bacteria to lumbering herd animals. Release points had been painstakingly selected to provide each species the ideal mix of terrain, resources, and interlinkages with the rest of the biosphere. As he watched them touch down, Marcus couldn't help but feel a twinge of regret. An entire world, virgin and unspoiled, now claimed for the Arcturan sphere before any human had so much as set foot on it. How many struggling families on Earth could have built new lives here? How many generations could have called it home? Shaking off the disloyal thought, Marcus turned his attention back to the terraforming readouts scrolling across his command console. Dwelling on such things was pointless. The accord was signed, the decisions made. This was the mission now. This was the future, for better or worse. As the Arcturan creatures began to multiply and spread across the planet's surface, transforming it even further, Marcus wondered what that future would hold. Would the Centauri Accord truly bring lasting peace and prosperity, uniting a fractious galaxy? Or would humanity one day come to regret giving away so many worlds it could have called its own? Only time would tell. But for now, Marcus and his crew of terraformers would continue to ply their trade, reshaping the cosmos one barren rock at a time. It was, after all, what they had been assigned to do. His fingers danced over the control board, finalizing the planet's new designation in the Terran astrographic database. Another job complete. Another world forever changed by the touch of ambitious humans and their miraculous machines. Helm, set course for the next target in the dossier. We have a lot of work still ahead of us. As the Gaia's promise broke orbit and sailed off through the stars, Marcus cast one last look at the newly purple planet receding behind them. A strange new world, yet somehow familiar in its alienness. A piece of the everywhere and nowhere that made up the true home of a terraformer.